All right, good evening. Sorry for the brief delay there, just making sure everything was set up properly. Welcome to part 4 or 5 of the Capital Limited 2007 Eastbound trip. Last week we finished up at Hancock Tower. Today we're going to be going from Hancock all the way to Pointer Rocks, although we're skipping quite a bit. The CPL section was both in 2007. There were CPLs between Pittsburgh and at this point Hancock, with some breaks around the some gaps west of Cumberland, Maryland. The town, not the sub. So, due to the fact that everything between east of Hancock and up to Brunswick effectively was just been re-signaled fairly recently. This is where I would go and either hang out with whatever friend I was neglecting or get lunch or one of those. So you can take your pick. But we're going to just talk about Hancock real quick and then continue on in the Brunswick, Maryland area. So as I mentioned, Hancock was the Hancock Tower, also known as HO. Hold on. First off, the neat bit is it's known as it's technically all the interlocking's in West Virginia. It's named after Hancock, Maryland, which is the narrowest that little pinch point on Maryland where 70 enters Pennsylvania. If you've ever driven between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you go through Breezewood. This is where 70 turns out of Maryland, and you have the option to take 68 if you have hazmats and want to avoid the Pennsylvania Turnpike tolls. The width of the state of Maryland at this point is 1.8 miles. Hancock Tower and/or interlocking the tower has been unfortunately closed and demolished. Was located here across the river. Like I've said before, the CSX Main Line B&O Main Line was rather a sleepy affair with a lot of tower control into the 21st century, with towers at Cumberland, up through the 90s. You had VI in Connellsville. Something in Hindman, Sandpatch Tower, Hindman Tower, Viaduct Junction in Cumberland, Mexico, which I'm not sure when that was transferred. Patterson Creek, again, I think that was also closed because you could TC remote it. And then this one, Hancock, and then going east of here, there was Miller Tower in Cherry Run, W Tower in West Cumbo, and then WB Tower in West Brunswick. So, Hancock was special because you can you can start to see that it was one of the last several towers with a pipeline mechanically operated switches. Here we have the eastbound CPL signal bridge, not super special. You had the 2 main tracks, the siding track that came in from Grasshopper Hollow, and then one additional signal and 2 additional signaled yard tracks. One of them had a high signal, the other one had a dwarf. Both of those served the small Hancock yard. Hancock was the receiving point for a fairly large sand operation to the south. And just one of those things that sort of held on as just a small little intermediate yard in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to talk too much about Hancock because after I saw the fact that it was being slated for retirement, I made my own special trip out there. Boldly knocked on the door after I caught word that the operator on Sundays was pretty chill, and after boldly knocking on the door, I was able to get a tower tour. So it's interesting. I actually know all the numbers for these switches. I just realized that I have all the diagrammatic information for all the Hancock stuff. Oh, I've actually by the time I did these, I actually had all the I had the information, so I don't need to go back and find it today. Here we have the 19. Like I said, it was a lever operated. It had switch levers, but it had a unit lever machine or panel for the signals, and it had mechanical levers for the switches. It looks like a Saxby and Farmer type machine. Again, I don't want to get into that, but again, you can then see how these all worked. There's your pipelines. Each switch would have two pipes going to it, one for the facing point lock and one to move the points. The facing point lock is basically it allows the points being locked in place by only the pipeline pipe isn't really a desirable outcome. A facing point lock, of course, in the United States, all switches are effectively facing point from a regulatory point of view. The facing point lock is a well-machined bar of metal that a separate lever, a pipeline actually, connected from a lever via the pipes to guarantee that the points are locked in the specific point where they need to be and aren't going to move. So a lot of the interlocking logic actually goes out, is based on the position of the facing point lock and not the switch lever itself. Facing point lock levers being blue. Again, I'm going to get into this later, but that's why you see two pipes there, two pipes there. So here controls this switch back that way, and then that last little run controls that switch right there, and then this guy, that one right there. If you ever go to the South Norwalk Tower Museum, although it's not simulated like Harris, they do have a fairly extensive mechanical interlocking machine that they've unlocked from the electric stuff. So you can just basically has root locking, and you can set up roots. It's not based on any sort of computer simulation, but you can see how the facing point lock levers work. When setting up lining, by hand a route through the plant. Here we have Hancock Tower itself. It's a fairly it's one of those things. If you see all the other angers, it had all these bump outs on it. I'm not sure if that was as built or as they had to expand it. They did so. Hancock was on the border of unresignaled and resignaled territory. I believe that I don't know exactly if east of here used to be Rule 251 until recently. It was a 4-track right-of-way until, again, some point in the 60s or 70s. But whenever they did the first round of resignaling, half the tower was CPL and mechanical points, and the other half got color lights and what is that? Electrically switch machine operated points. Just extra zoom view. Again, even though these pipelines there are not hooked up, they are quite that you do have that really neat sort of view of them going down the track side there. And again, here we just see the other end of, so it's basically a full crossover, and you have this ladder out of the silica, the sand, the industrial track there, going all the way into the yard. There was also a scale in this setup. That little hut there had a scale, some sort of scale thing with it, so they could weigh the sand. There's always a caboose there for some reason. Whenever I'm coming back from, let's say, Pittsburgh or somewhere, I'll often we'll stop, because it's if you don't want to buy gas in Pennsylvania, but Hancock's the first place you can get some reasonable gas prices. So if we're gonna go off and stop to get some gas at a Sheetz or something there, I'll usually take 5 minutes, and especially if I can catch the Capital Limited or something coming through here. And then we have, like I said, the replacement cantilever signal. This had been here for a number of years. I never saw the original one, whatever that used to be. I mean, the original signals here. Probably a bracket. I'm actually not sure. I've seen it at some point on a picture, but... Ugh. So normally, it'd be all like, hey, oh, and here's the actual Hancock station building. Again, this is one of those sort of minor and maintenance of way bases that you see every bunch of miles along, one of the main lines these days. Probably the one between Martinsburg and Cumberland. Okay, so what we're doing now is doing a pretty big skip. Like I said, this is where I went and would go get lunch. So between Hancock and Cherry Run, this is a fairly fast stretch of track. It goes right along the Potomac River. I-70 across the way is also fairly fast in this location. Cherry Run is located right in here, or what used to be R Tower. Or Miller, or R. So it's R Tower, aka Miller, but now the interlocking is called Cherry Run. This is also, you would have a connection between the Western Maryland. Now that the Western Maryland is abandoned west of here, this is how CSX accesses the part of the Western Maryland that it still wishes to operate. This would go via Hagerstown, and eventually make its way to Baltimore via the Western Maryland route, which sort of went over Hill and Dale till you got to the port. But again, the part of here is parts of it are a trail, parts of it are just sort of a right-of-way. The other interesting thing at Cherry Run is where you pick up a third track. This is a low-grade freight line. Also known as track number 4. You can see the track that's normally used is that one right there. The low grade line goes all the way over there. This is due to a sort of mountain that sort of gets in the way. So the direct route cuts its way through these two mountain ridges right there, mainly through that pass. Whereas the low grade line bypasses all that, hugging the river, and then using sort of an inland valley. I'm sure that Amtrak crews have to be qualified on that line. I do not know how they get qualified on that line, or how often an Amtrak train ever runs on that line. Speeds are a little bit slower, a straight 40 miles an hour versus an amount of between 40 and 65, although there is a good deal of 40 on the normal route. There is a similar track between Johnstown and CP Conpit on the Pittsburgh line, and I do a video, a head-end video of a Pennsylvanian that took that extra route, that took that specific, what they call track 3. That's about 15 minutes slower. I don't know how much this low-grade line is, but the one in Pennsylvania, one of the PR route does not have any special out of the ordinary blanket speed restrictions. The next thing is called West. The next point of interest is called West Cumbo. That is where the tracks rejoin. Again, both Miller and West Cumbo were manned towers into the 21st century. West Cumbo, tower was preserved. It's now at Martinsburg. The tower at West Cumbo was wooden and was demolished. It didn't have, unlike Miller, it didn't have levers. It had a GRS pistol grip machine. Again, I've brought up Martinsburg before with NA Cabin. I'm just showing you where these things all are. That's where Miller Tower has been relocated and preserved. There's the NA Tower or Cabin, which is still kind of there, hanging on. This is also the extent of MARC service. Part of the MARC service extension is why is what prompted some of the resignaling, at least to Martinsburg. When MARC started, it was, again, most of this was Rule 251, and getting those MARC trains out there is basically, they sort of made someone's state government have to pay for the CTC project. Every time MARC wants to expand service on CSX demands more crossovers. So that's why on the Brunswick and Camden line, it's pretty much back-to-back-to-back crossovers the entire way down. Harper's Ferry is now right here. And now we're approaching the next sort of oddball B&O yard location of Brunswick. To get there, you have to squeeze not only through there's two ridges that the B&O squeezes through before it hits Brunswick. So one of these is known as Sandy Hook. This was, again, part of I said every time MARC expands service, CSX gets more crossovers. This one, again, was installed to, I'm betting primarily it was installed to allow trains to access the inbound station track. I think there is a duck under at Harper's Ferry. Both platforms can be used, but just in case, I think they installed that again for, you know what actually there was? I think there was a low speed switch right here at the Harper's Ferry interlocking to access the Shenandoah branch, and building this higher speed. It's definitely limited speed here at Sandy Hook. Again, both allowed easier access to the Shenandoah branch, and if trains wanted to use, just stay on that side of the track, again, now it's Rule 251, that would allow that. I think that there's one additional station in Maryland, and I'm betting that its track is on the south side. Duffield's, that's the one. That's that big park and ride that, West Virginia DOT put out there. Yeah, it looks like it just has one platform on this side of the street. Oh no, it has two. Never mind. So Mark, I usually just assume that they only built one platform, but it looks like that is not the case. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to give some context of what's going on there. The Brunswick area is known for flooding on a fairly regular basis. So that's why all the new signaling in here has been, you'll see that it's been elevated. Signaling, I mean like the relay huts. And again, seaboard signals at Sandy Hook. This is back-to-back with Harper's Ferry. So you probably have a short signal block here, so you would need something like a medium approach medium or medium approach slow. I also love the concrete ties you see there. Again, I'm certain that CSX got one of the states to pay for this, and if it's not your dime, why not pay for why not demand why not pay for concrete ties? Here we have one of the cuts. Immediately to the behind the trees to the left of this image is the C&O Canal. In some of these close locations, specifically in here now. So the C&O Canal tended to be on the Maryland side of the Potomac River, but where the B&O Main Line is mainly on the West Virginia side. But in this location, they're both on the Maryland side, and they're kind of squeezed together. If you're ever in the D.C. area, there's a really nice bike thing you can do from either Point of Rocks or Brunswick. You just take your bike out there, or walk if you want to do that. But you can do a quick, maybe takes an hour, 90 minutes. You can go from Point of Rocks all the way to Harper's Ferry, and you can ride your bike all the way back, all along the tracks. Really fun time. I did it a couple times back when there were signals to see, but I haven't done it in a while. It's one of those ones I say it's up there with the abandoned PA Turnpike in terms of a fun bike activity. Rail/bike activity. Here's Weaverton. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I've been here, this is the one that this and Harper's Ferry were one of those early ones that quote unquote got away. Again, another complaint of why didn't I take photos of this? In this case, it was a little bit more difficult. I was in the area in 2003 or 4 for grad school, but I didn't have a car in the area, and I didn't really know. I didn't have a good way to get out. I could have found a way to get out there if I really tried, and I was sort of had this on my radar of a thing I need to get more photos of. This and the CPLs at Harper's Ferry. There's a lot of photos of those because they're right by the Appalachian Trail. And again, it was sort of like I got to find a way to get out there. I sort of I was planning on it, but again, this was all bi-directional. So I was at the time I was mainly worried about not, Rule 251 stuff going away. So if it was CTC, I just assumed it was going to be fine. In this case, I got caught up in got caught up in that West Virginia service. I do have a few photos of this interlocking before it got changed, but that was from a Capital Limited shooting out the front when they had a front-facing window in a coach. Sorry, one sec. Okay. That's our first batch of photos there. Let me check those real quick. See if people have any questions in the chat. Oh man, a lot of questions in the chat. The C&O Canal, I am not entirely sure about that. I'm sure you can go look it up, but I don't actually think so. The C&O Canal was simply, they're both descriptions of what they are, but the C&O Railroad is not anywhere. Their main line, their area of operations is not anywhere really close to the C&O Canal. I don't even know if the C&O Canal got to the... I'd be wondering if... it always makes me wonder if they actually got that to the Ohio River. The C&O Canal is really competing with the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. And the C&O Railroad might have just been lifting off the name of the existing canal, kind of like the New York Football Giants. I don't 100% know that, but all I know is they're not in anywhere near the same area. It's plausible that the people who owned the canal built the railroad on a different alignment, emptying out at Newport News, but something tells me that really isn't the case. So this is where, again, I have one photo of this. I think the original configuration was 2 CPL masts on the main tracks. The inner tracks, the Brunswick Yard leads, and before the interlocking got re-signaled, they were 2 CPL dwarfs. Yeah, railroads loved having having yards between the main tracks. This is one of those examples. The interesting... oh, one sec. And here we have the same signal bridge poking out from behind the foliage there. Just like before, there were no intermediates. So again, this is all indicating medium approach medium capability, or even medium approach slow for that signal at Sandy Hook, and then the short signal distance to Hancock. So even again, all you're gonna need a visual aid for this one. So there's the Brunswick Yard, what I call the Brunswick Yard complex. It starts all the way there at Weaverton, and it ends at East Brunswick interlocking. A lot of it might have been railroad in the past, but is empty. So what you have 2 main tracks on the outside. You got 2 yard tracks on the inside. My train right now is now wrong railing on track number. Oh crap! the subdivision used to be at Weaverton, so that would have just put us into a new subdivision. However, at some point they moved it to Pointer Rocks, but in 2005, it was still the old system. So I'm going to go to the Met sub now. Okay, here we go. So I'm on track number 1, and there's number 3 runner, number 4 runner, and then main track number 2. In the middle of all of this is WB Tower, which closed, which was the last one standing, and finally closed in 2013. WB Tower had previously had panel control of East Brunswick, Weaverton, and Hancock because there was limited CTC. So like they had the tower operators with just any little CTC islands they had, the whatever the tower operator had, they would be handling it. That changed in the 90s a little bit when between DC and Brunswick got CTC, and then it really changed in the early 2000s. So the neat bit is that hiding in these little stretches of wilderness here were 2, what do you call that? Like non-wrong railing CPLs, a holdover from when this was Rule 251. The track is bidirectional. You just had inconsistent blocks. So we're going against the current of the quote unquote normal current of traffic, but we're still signaled. We just have one giant block between Weaverton and West Brunswick, whereas a westbound train would have this extra block between those 2 sites. Now, if we were on track number 2, we would also get an extra signal block approaching West Brunswick. So just a little cute little holdover from the earlier ABS 251 era. The interesting bit is that these don't appear on the signal list. That I don't have a name for them like all the other signals. These just aren't there. When this area was being re-signaled, I did sneak out and got photos of all of them. Up close and personal. At this time, coal was still in full swing. Even high sulfur Appalachian coal. A lot of the coal trains coming down would stage at West Brunswick. This was a big crew base, so they would sort of come down, and then when they had to make that final run to an East Coast power plant or a port, then they would get dispatched for. That's how I think that happened. So there were always coal trains hanging out at West, like full-length coal trains just hanging out at West Brunswick without a crew. And like I said, I just had this why would you do that? Why wouldn't you run them direct? Well, with East Coast things like if you're delivering this coal to a power plant off the Northeast Corridor, and the Popes Creek subdivision off of Bowie did have 2 power plants down there. There's the Pepco one on the Met sub, but again, maybe it's Mark. So a train rolls in, and they don't want to get that. They don't want to get it. Get this moving in the middle of a rush hour, or Amtrak won't take it till 11 p.m. I got this vibe that they would come down here, and then they would hang out until it was ready to go to their final destination after rush hour or whatever would be sort of stopping it. That's just my theory. Here we have a nice example of one of the many AC 4400s that were still pretty new at this time. Although the CSX went to the Dash 9 era a lot faster than NS did. Where NS got the last Dash 9s, CSX literally got the first. Oh. I cut that first picture for some weird reason. And there's milepost number 76. One second. This guy was cool. I've always loved taking pictures of rail fans. No clue who this guy is, although you can't make out the license plate. Also note the lupins behind them. I think that's what they are, although they might be different than the ones in Europe. Wow, a reasonably sized pickup truck. Amazing. Shame you can't buy those anymore. Again, here we are now entering the Brunswick Yard area. So what I can see that there used to be stuff in here. You can see that there used to be an extra yard. That there's tracks in there. There's an old yard fan. There's a lot of stuff that seemed to be going down in the Brunswick Yard just footprint. But now there's an 84 lumber. So here's the Mark station, and again, even to this day, you see, the strings of coal trains tied up there. But on this day, you had three of whatever they were. There's a it's either an SD70 or 60M or I, and then two of the AC 4400s, and then we've got some yard air here in the beginning. So let's just see if we can zoom in and see what numbers those guys are. So one of them is 44. The other one appears to be 318. Nah. I can't even tell what that guy is in the back. Oh, I don't even... I cut that photo. See, this is what I always love. I love... when I find a photo that I cut for no real good reason. There we go. I bet that's a 70 Mac. Hopefully they're not all rebuilt now. There they are. Looks to be like a 4500 series 70 Mac. Close enough. Okay, now we're getting into WB interlocking. The good news is that, like I said, WB Tower has been fortunately preserved. Now, I don't think that I got the... I do have the lever numbers and stuff of these. And I bet I can find it if I just look in my blog somewhere. There it is. That's the 26L and 14L signals there. I'm pretty sure that WB Tower lasted as long as it did because it's I bet, like CSA, I bet Mark was paying for that operator position. Metra was paying for the roundout tower operator, for example. For some reason, CN decided to re-signal it, but when I say operator, it's not one guy. It's again, any 24-hour position needs 5 full-time employees, 3 shifts, an extra man, a relief man, and an extra guy. So is it 14L and 26L? There we go. Here we have the 21 East switch. The reason I got these is because I read them off the switch covers. You can actually read it there, 21E. Here we have another hallmark of early interlockings are like all sorts of random interior signals that made the interlocking logic just a little bit easier to implement. I don't think that all of those got replicated on the new thing. So it's the 19 switches there. It's 21E, and I can find out who that little guy is. That guy is the 16L. How can I cut this? Oh, another interesting thing. This little block this is a terminal for electric point heating. This is something that I've noticed a lot in the Mark zone, that exact model. CSX was frequently using smudge pots. I think, Mark came in and paid to get some of the crossovers modified to actually have point heating. Not that that's really necessary anymore with, no snow anymore. I think we've had like a total of 2 inches of snow in the last 3 years in Maryland. Oh, at least we are in the Baltimore area. Okay, it's 16L. All right. Oh, this one's gonna be tough. One other thing to notice for these air switches is that you've got the valve unit right there, and that's controlling that. So if you wanted to go and see a CP valve unit without having to go walk on the right of way, the parking lot, the Brunswick Mark station was where you went to do it. What the heck? Oh. Not quite as good. That's better. Another internal signal right there. That is going to be... Wait, hold on. Sorry, that's not 16. That's 16L. The other one was 24L. I did get up and around WB before it closed, and I got pretty good photos. Probably felt I could have gotten more, but for whatever reason, maybe it was like the ones on the far side, and the reason is because it's kind of an active yard, and there's a lot of tourists and stuff around, and they're not going to bug you, but there's park police, and it wouldn't take much, so I was a little cautious there. There's your 16L signal. There's your 17 switch. And here we have, I think that's the 15 switch. I so know these. And then that is the 16R. 16RA. Because there's 3 that fed into 1, the other 2 would be RB and RC. Notice all the families and stuff there. Very popular location. And that's for this set. Oops, sorry, things got a little slow there. All right, well, those are loading. Let's see if people have any questions. Yeah, but at the time, it's still a pretty neat photo. We're going to have some neat, fun stuff here today. So here we have 5295 blocking out WB Tower, and then the 3 eastbound, westbound home signals. Interesting thing, this mast signal right here, a number of years before the tower was closed, that signal was so decrepit they replaced it with a completely refurbished one. Another thing to look out for here is the train order mast that was still in place. If we go look at our thing, what a 5200 series is, it's going to be a C40-10W. For the record, those signals are the 16RA, 24R, and 28R. Zoom shot of that again. The order forks, the and the two of the signals there. All right, looks good. And we got next. Oh, some engine lines. Looks like I'll be able to get the numbers on these too. Now I want to get that side with the caboose. I don't need a hopper. So first off, we have an AC 6000 there leading. You can tell by the blue outline around the letters and the ginormous radiator. And then we have 545 and 546. We got sibling. Looks like 545 and 546. They paired up some siblings with an AC 6000. That's going to be one of the longer ones. I might have to go to a Wikipedia page for this. CSX had looks like the 5000 series. Yeah, there you go. 5000 to 516. So they're in the 600 series or a couple in the 5000s. This looks like a 5000 block. Alright, let's see what I can do to cut this. Alright, there we go. That works. So at 545 or 546, 545, and then 50 something or other. Yeah, once I knew that, what to look out for an AC 6000, I used to just run into them all the time. Here we have yard air. Now, what's interesting is haven't been looking at my old the photos for these. But I'll take that. I'll take that old name. This is a cute CSX end cab switcher. Looks like an MP15 due to the the type of trucks there. The switchers tend to have Blomberg Bs, whereas the MP15s, which was sort of a marketing gimmick by EMD back in the day, will have those. Sometimes they get retrucked, so don't. That's not necessarily a 100% statement there. I bet that they don't have that anymore. Where's that old roster? Nope, that's not it. The hell did I put that CSX roster? There it is. Yeah, it's definitely not on the roster anymore. 9118. SO is an SW1500. What the hell is the difference between an SW1500 and the MP15s if it's not the damn trucks? Oh, it's a remote control platform. There you go. So that actually is not an engine at this point. That's a remote control platform. I think it might be different than a hump slug or something. It attaches to it attaches to a regular engine and makes it into a remote control unit. Oh, neat. All right, we'll see if railpictures.net, railroadpicturearchives.net seems to be having a bad day, week, or whatever. Something's driving it to its knees. I don't know what it is, but again, neat little thing that you see. Even though the internet existed in 2007, it didn't quite have. I definitely wasn't diligent enough to do a lot of searching, but it wasn't quite as easy to find these answers to these questions without asking on forums. And you just didn't ask as many questions. Now this is also neat because we have a SD48 70 Ace. CSX got rid of all of theirs, although they did keep their 70 Max. They didn't have a lot of 70 Aces. I caught a couple, and then I would go look on the roster, and they wouldn't be there anymore. So this is 4846. I bet it's not there. Yeah, they've got a bunch of 70 Max. But they had about 250. Looks like they had about 300 of them. But those 70 Aces were, they were there, and they were, whatchamacallit, they vanished at some point. So let's just see 4846. Oh, here we go. It finally came up. $2015 looks like to be the last time, probably at the deadline in Cumberland. All right, let's look at then CSX number 4846. All right, we'll let that cook. I wonder if Wikipedia will have that as well. Sometimes on the Wikipedia pages, especially for, you'll get the original numbers. Here we go. CSX. They say they're in storage, so there you go. Wait. Oh, 70 max. All right. 78. CSX had 20, and one got retired. All retired, and they sold them to Progress Rail as leasers in 2017. All right, that's what happened to them. And just another view of the same guys, but this time with 535334, who is C40-10W. By the way, I also forgot to mention that there's a GP30 yard slug in there. They're still around. It's one of the better uses of GP30s. I think that I'm not sure BNSF has many of theirs. I know that they rebuilt a bunch into GP39, like ends or whatever. They put a modifier on it. But those yard slug sets on CSX are probably one of the higher profile GP30 uses still out there. Okay, so here again we have East Brunswick interlocking before it got substantially resignaled. So where we are is now WB Tower is right there. And now we're at East Brunswick. We have north lead, south lead. That's going to be the south lead switch. CPL. Oh yeah, this is the last set. I forgot. Yeah, it's a shorter set these times. I think that is there's like an extra crossover switch in there. We'll see how that goes. 1 second. Yep, that's the crossover. And here we have, so this East Brunswick has newer CPL hardware than a lot of the other stuff because, again, this was built in the 1990s CTC project. That was when Mark service sort of got expanded. A lot of bidirectional went in between here and DC. It used to be that up in the very early 90s, as soon as you hit Georgetown Junction, you were Rule 251 all the way to Pointer Rocks. Congratulations, conga line time. And then when Mark wanted more frequency, as DC, had miserable, more withering traffic, they had to go and they had to continue. I'm pretty sure that Mark paid for a bunch of this. Ugh. What can I do here? What track is this? Track 2 or track 1? Track 1. Oh, here's the issue. At the time, this was the Metropolitan sub. Huh. Oh, you know what? It's nice because it's got the CPL, so there you go. And there's your East Brunswick crossover. Now, I came in here on one of my little bike trail trips that I talked about. And I was able to get over and get photos of one end of East Brunswick interlocking, figuring I'd be able to make it back for the other ones. And unfortunately, I did not. Mainly, the issue was that, we didn't have all day, and it took me a while to get the photos of just those other ones, the east end. So I figured it would give me an excuse to return and get additional photos, some point in the future. And there weren't even replacement signals up, and it was like lickety split. Like something happened. Like often again, these resignalings would take a lot of time. And it was almost like the next thing I knew, boom, they got them. Like 6 months later, they were gone. That was when did I do that? Oh, there it is. Wait, no, that's not it. I'm just trying to see when I did that thing. No, that's not it. It was 2010 that I did that. And for whatever reason, they got East Brunswick faster than I thought they would. Or I was just really, really, really lazy. Let's actually find out. Because in 2011, I got a good set of photos on there from the cap. There's West Brunswick. There's High Rock. Okay, so, yeah, 2011 was fine. Could have gone that year. I think it was 2012. No? They were still there in 20. Man, I was just don't know why I was taking so much time with that. Maybe I just thought whatever it was, I had 2 years to do it, and I just didn't. But they did catch me by surprise. So you just have the interlocking itself. Notice we cross over now, so now we're no longer wrong railing. And the westbound masts. For all the stuff that goes on in West Brunswick, the East Brunswick CPLs are pretty basic. Because you're all going into a yard, you don't have a lot of medium approach mediums. Everything at West Brunswick, at least on the other side, was facing point. And that's a good point on the other side, too. You did have crossovers. Oh, yeah, the crossovers would all go into restricted territory, so you couldn't get like a medium approach medium. Man, can you imagine the alternate world where CSX just chose to standardize on the color position light instead of the seaboard crap? They're doing it, I mean, like a lot of railroads, they were trying to keep the distinctiveness, but I'm betting that was just sort of, as soon as at some point, the Wall Streeters swept out those folks. So I'm going to have a short little thing here. We don't have a full set today. I know we're running a little long. But I do have a few additional ones to get to Pointer Rocks. So what do we have left? We have 49 to... How about we go to 226? Yeah, that's fair. Let's see what people are talking about. You have any questions? Yes, it does remind me of Thorndale, but Thorndale was barely a helper base. West Brunswick Yard is pretty intense. Yeah, so the with the SEPTA thing, basically SEPTA's using their is jujitsuing out of the order they don't need anymore. Post COVID, they don't need those bi-levels, and CCRC is a complete shit show. So the cars, my friend was like, they should still do a buff test on them to see just what happens, because he doesn't think that they would be able to hit the crash worthiness requirements. He thinks they're going to fall apart. Really, SEPTA doesn't need. Really doesn't. SEPTA's definitely look at those MU bi-levels, but SEPTA just does not need bi-level trailer cars right now. They were bought because before 2019, they were having, their express trains were having some capacity, were capacity limited. They were very popular, but Center City has just really been hollowed out with work from home. So there's not much you can do there. So here we have High Rock. It signals at milepost 71. I did get out to get full photos of these on one of my little bike trips. A really fun story about this. So again, immediately to the left of the photo is the C&O Canal bike path, but between the bike path and the railroad is the actual canalway. Some of it is dry, some of it is wet. At this point, it was generally there was water there. And I'm not gonna go walk. It's deep, and I'm getting off my bike. But I need to get the photos of these signals, and there's a tree down. So I start scooching across the tree to go get up, get pictures of the signal location. And my friend is watching me. He goes like, "Well, I can't say you're not committed." So, which is probably one of the best compliments I've been paid on my crazy signal, whatever. Um, when I was saying scooching, I was very gingerly getting across that log, because if I went in the I didn't not want to go in the fetid canal water. And again, these are the newer 1990s, the 1992 vintage CPLs. As far as I can tell, this was the last installation of B&O CPLs as part of a general resignaling effort between DC and here. I could definitely be wrong, but that's the latest I've ever seen. And that was around 1992. Here we have the Point of Rocks tunnels. Again, these were partly daylighted in the 70s, 60s, or 70s for clearance purposes, of course. It's very interesting about how how you used to be able to fit two tracks in a tunnel that size. Today it's like, well, you could never fit two tracks in there. Trains, trains didn't go that high. Before the era of double stacks, trains really didn't go that high. 15 feet was the typical clearance. Come on. Now, a real mystery. Well, hold on. Now we are entering the Point of Rocks interlocking again. I remember when this was re-signaled in around 2000, something in 2000, 2002, 2003. This, I don't think I was in the area yet, but I remember seeing it on forums or photos, some sort of web forum or newsletter that Point of Rocks was getting re-signaled. Damn it. There's some permanent speed restriction signs there. Sorry, temporary speed restriction boards right there in the foreground. Point of Rocks, of course, is where the old main line to Baltimore joins with the newer one of the two. I'm sorry. What's today's is the Capital Sub, is the Mark Camden line. That used to be called the Washington branch. This was the Metropolitan branch. Whereas to differentiate it from the main line to Baltimore. Once again, I'm going to give the quick history lesson. The reason, again, there's a lot of railroads. You can't just say the B&O is the first one, and then there's like nothing, and then other ones. A lot of railroads were getting built, but the real impetus behind Baltimore and Ohio was the fact that Baltimore had a great port, but no inland waterway to get, no water to get, no way to get goods inland. There's no river that empties out into the Baltimore harbor. The harbor is just there. It's blind, effectively. There's a creek. So Baltimore as a city, so Washington could, they had the canal there. So they DC had almost better port opportunities than Baltimore did. So the point of the railroad was to bridge this land gap to at least get to the C&O Canal here at Pointer Rocks, and eventually the Ohio River. It's also interesting. I'm not sure if this would have ever been in an English style flat junction configuration, but it's interesting. Like in the UK, this would definitely have been a completely flat, two switches and a diamond crossover. And here you have everything's made from full turnouts. One of the reasons the Reading was, although an ally of the B&O, the Reading itself was designed by Britt, someone who had done UK railroads, and that's why, even to an extent to this day, but especially in the past, it had so many flat junctions with diamonds. Titus, Carmel, where the Warminster branch splits off. There's elements of it in Wayne Junction, 16th Street Junction, Jenkintown. All over the place, the Reading was built like it was in the UK. And here we have our mast signals at the end of the station platform. This is gonna be the last. Oopsies! This is gonna be the last thing for the day. So next week we will continue for the last bit and get down to DC. That will have some amount of Come on, there it goes. They'll have some amount of the CPLs in that range before you had to go back. One of the downsides of the cap was that they generally made you go sit back in your seat at Rockville. So I don't have a lot of photos of those last few signals between Rockville and the DC. But that's just a preview for what we have for the next time, which I think I can do next week. Might be Friday though, so keep an eye out. All right, let me see if we have any other questions. Yeah, the Reading order has a bunch of those BNSF GP30s. Those are rebuilt, so they're effectively GP30. The BNSF would call them GP39s. The engine they basically got 645 power assemblies, which you can fit in an old 567 block, and they don't have a turbo on them anymore. Okie dokie. Thank you everyone for watching. And I will again hope to see you next week. I'm gonna fingers crossed on how that goes. All right. So let me know if you have any questions. But have a great day, and I got to get out of here. All right. Later. Bye.